Hi, everyone, and welcome to our virtual event today. Thank you so much for joining the Artificial Intelligence and Advanced Technology and Service Learning virtual event with EPICS and IEEE. I have a few housekeeping items that I want to go over before we get started. Just so you know, all attendees will be on mute throughout the event. You can use the chat function for any questions, and there will be time at the end for open Q&A with our panelists. And we have started recording this webinar, and after this, it will be added to our YouTube page so you can view it in the future as well. Thank you again for joining us. And with that, I'll turn it over to our committee chair, Stephanie Gillespie.
Hello, everyone. We're so excited to have you joining us. And if you're watching this as a recording, thank you for joining in after our live webinar. We hope this will be very valuable for you. I do serve as the committee chair for EPICS and IEEE, and I'm excited to present quite a few different individuals who will be joining us for this panel. Some of you may not be familiar with EPICS and IEEE, and so we want to provide just a very quick overview before we jump into our panel. EPICS and IEEE is a program that lives underneath the IEEE Educational Activities Board. We prioritize supporting student service learning, which is where students partner with local groups in their community to solve problems. This means that students are getting real-world experiences for solving engineering challenges. They take their technical skills and apply them to a real-world problem. But the intent is that their solution will be transitioned over to a nonprofit organization that will benefit the community when the project is done. We do provide projects in education, access and abilities, environment, and human services. And we provide project support through funding, mentorship, and other programming and initiatives. So if you have more questions about EPICS and IEEE as a whole, we do encourage you to view our website. On our next slide, you will see some of our stats that we have. So in 2023, we funded 39 projects. You'll see many of them were in access and abilities because we had a themed call. Today, we're talking about artificial intelligence because our themed call this year is not going to be aligned with one of our project pillars, but with the type of technology. You can see that we have projects all over the world, and we've recently surpassed providing over $1 million in funding. So we are very excited to have many of you join us today to learn more about this program, but also to learn how we can integrate modern technologies such as artificial intelligence and machine learning into EPICS and IEEE projects. With that, I'm going to pass my speaking part over to one of my committee members, Kai. Kai's been with us for multiple years now, and we're very excited to have him moderating this panel today. Kai, over to you.
Everyone, thank you. Yeah, so my name's Kai Goodall, and we've invited a few project leads to join us who have integrated AI into their EPICS service learning projects, and we'll begin with Dr. Danny.
Good morning, everyone.
Next slide, please. Oh, sure.
Good morning, everyone. And my name is Danny Abu Jawde, and I am Assistant Professor of Mechanical Engineering at the American University of Beirut. So I am an expert in control system. And as you can see, please, on the next slide, I am a co-founder of the Saving Lebanese Biodiversity Center Incubator at AUB. So in this center, we are looking at leveraging tools from electrical and computer engineering, as well as mechanical engineering, to help save the Lebanese biodiversity. Specifically, we are looking into AI, machine learning, and robotics. So next slide, please. And the present EPICS and IEEE project that we have. So we are working on mitigating the taxonomic impediment problem of plants in Lebanon. And for this, we want to use machine learning and citizen science. So what is the taxonomic impediment? It refers to the global shortage of experts who are able to label and identify plant species, and also to the significant manual work which is involved in taxonomy research, for example, for the creation of species spatiotemporal maps. So in our project, what we want to do is we want to create a database of Lebanese plant species, and we want to develop and tailor AI and ML models for the classification and recognition of Lebanese plant species. And finally, we want to integrate this machine learning model into a user-friendly database, and this will help in wide-scale adoption by citizen scientists and nature enthusiasts. So the overall goal of our project is to empower local biodiversity action by leveraging this widely available smartphone technology. If you can go please to the next slide. Yes, here you can see some of the field work which was involved and facilitated by our APEX and IEEE project for the creation of the database. So we have engaged a total of 110 student volunteers in weekly trip where they go to the natural reserve and take field images of plant species. And in the next slide, we can see some of the collected images that we have obtained, as well as their corresponding labels. So these very nice images were obtained through our IEEE projects by our student volunteers. Next, if we can go please to the next slide, we can see the machine learning model framework that we are adopting. So here you can see that our model should take as an input an unknown image, and as an output should give the predicted class. Specifically, what we did is we have leveraged an existing very powerful classification model, which is off the shelf available open source, and we have fine-tuned it through transfer learning on our collected image data set for better accuracy on the Lebanese data. And here you can see the training and validation, loss function, and accuracy, and their evolution throughout the various epochs of the machine learning algorithm. And finally, in the top left figure, you can see something very nice, which is the visualization of how the algorithm is working. Specifically, it is focusing on the fruit of the plant to be able to recognize the species, as you can see in the highlighted portion in yellow. And finally, you can see in the final slide here, the wireframe of the proposed smartphone application that we want to create. And why is this smartphone application very useful? Because it will help through wide-scale adoption by people who are interested and stakeholders to create spatiotemporal maps. And also, we want our application to be user-friendly. So not only we are interested in outputting the class of the species identified, but also other information which might be of interest to the users. And also, since we are operating in Lebanon, we would like our application to have a working Arabic format to give the common name to help locals access the information provided by the application. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Danny. Yeah, thanks for describing your project and letting us know how you integrated AI into it. That's great. I also just want to quickly ask you, has leveraging AI increased the efficiency in your project, as well as have you had any challenges while incorporating AI into your project, and how did you overcome these?
Okay, thank you very much for your question. So in regards to efficiency, as I have mentioned, the problem of current taxonomic work is that it involves a lot of manual work. So what has happened is in the past is that biodiversity experts would do field trips around the country and take pictures and then publish them via a textbook or some online medium database. But as you can see, this is very time consuming for people to do. So AI is really helpful in this sense because we are able to fine tune an existing model, and by complementing existing databases which exist online by our collected data on the field, and then we are able to increase the accuracy of the recognition and the classification, and also reduce the time needed for labeling. So as you can imagine, we don't have many biodiversity experts who are able to process huge amounts of data, but a smartphone, a machine learning model is able in little time to process such information and output the correct class species.
Perfect, thank you. We'll now move on to Dr. Najravan. Can you please describe your project and how AI is integrated into the project, as well as how has leveraging AI increased the efficiency in your project, and what challenges you've experienced while using AI and how you overcome them? Thank you.
Thank you, Kai, and hello everybody. I'm Noshirwan Shoaib. I'm Associate Professor and Head of Department at National University of Science and Technology, Islamabad, Pakistan. So our project is development of behavioral therapy metaverse for autistic children. Next slide, please. So as per one estimate, there are nearly 350,000 autistic children in Pakistan. And next slide, please. Yes, thank you. So there are more than 350,000 autistic children there in Pakistan as per one estimate. And since this estimate is not as accurate because many people, especially parents, don't know about the autism, possibly due to social stigma. So it is very important to create the awareness of the autism. So our first part of the project is to do the autism awareness among the youth and the parents. So in this part of the project, we conducted the workshops and trained more than 180 young adults and parents about the different aspects of the autism and how to provide the intervention to the autistic children. So we collaborated with the local local foundations as well to conduct these workshops. The second part of the project is to create a virtual reality platform for autistic children. So in this platform, we are basically reproducing or making the behavior or communication therapy that can be used by the therapist to do the real-time environments for the autistic children to train them. For example, we develop the scenarios for cooking, for road crossing, and to go for shopping and for communication purposes as well. So in this way, we give video gaming experience to the autistic children, and the age bracket is 13 to 20 years. So we are expecting that introducing the technology for the autism intervention can improve can accelerate the learning in the autistic children. The third aspect of the project is to integrate the AI to personalize the autistic assistive technologies for the autistic children. So we think that AI is very, very useful because it is used to analyze the complex data that we obtain from the children, from the caretakers, from the parents, from the professionals, and then make some decision while using the VR device. For example, if autistic children is feeling strange or feeling disturbed with the virtual reality device, then the AI algorithm can automatically offer the targeted intervention so that they can continue learning using the AI virtual reality platform. So the AI can help us to basically improve the user engagement, also help us to improve the human-robot interaction. Since this is a service learning project, so we collaborated with the Pakistan Autism Health Sciences and Research Foundation, and we are in contact with the multiple therapists and people who are working on this topic. So we collaborated with Ms. Amna Imran and Dr. Sana Azhar, and they are helping us to not just giving us the input to develop this VR device, but also helping us to give us access to the VETS Autism Center that are available in Rawalpindi in Islamabad, where we are using these virtual reality devices. One of the challenges that we have faced using the VR device is the attention time of the autistic children. So the autistic children usually have very less attention time. So therefore, it's very challenging for them to put the device on their head and do the therapy. But we have seen that if we do first the physical scenario and then repeat the same in a virtual environment, then we have seen that it has improved a lot. And then if we integrate the AI, then these make the device more intelligent. However, again, since the improvement with the autistic children is very, very slow or time consuming, especially if you talk about the data that we use for the AI algorithm. So this is one of the challenges that we have faced. However, with the help of the Pakistan Autism Health Sciences and Research Foundation, we were able to solve this problem. And we are actually still gathering the data to make our VR more intelligent, more user-friendly, and improve the human-robot interaction. Thank you.
Great, thank you. We'll now move on to Prasanna. Can you also please briefly describe your project, as well as how AI is integrated into the project, as well as has leveraging AI increased the efficiency in your project, and what challenges have you faced when incorporating AI into your service learning project, and how did you overcome them if there was any? Thank you.
Warm greetings, everyone, all the attendees. And before introducing myself, I'd like to thank this program committee who made this event possible and who also gave me this opportunity to present in the event. Okay, I'm Prasanna Vijay. I'm an undergrad engineering student at Sri Sairam Engineering College, and I am also an A researcher and a fellow in ICMR, Indian Council of Medical Research. My researches include AA for assistive devices, but primarily I am the lead of IEEE and EPICS project, Smart and Sustainable Forest Project Gaia. Okay, next slide, please. This project actually made possible through the funding from the IEEE Standard Associations. Okay. You can see this slide, right? The image is the Google Earth image in the slide shows that how the deployment area will be. So our NGO, Kenneth Anderson Natural Wildlife Organization, who taking care of this area. So this area is very sensitive area. It's visually evident that it is a median line of a forest and then village. So the everyday scenario of this area is that the animals used to enter the villages and just into the villages and hinder the lifestyle of the humans. Just the elephant used to raid the crops and then damage the crops of the farmers in that area. And then cheetahs used to enter the village at night time and just attack the even people. So these are the things are going on in this area. Also, the humans used to enter the forest, just hinder the lifestyle of the elephants and those animals. And also, they involve some malicious activities in this area, in the forest, like cutting the wood and many malpractices in that area. So this area is very sensitive and susceptible. So what the NGO asked for us that they need a monitoring system in this area, like who enter the forest and what are the animals that intrude the villages, those things. So also the forest fire is one of the main problem. The summertime, the leaves used to dry up and causing the leaves to burn out and causing the forest fire. Also, if, after the forest fire, the carbon monoxide released basically enters the village and like for a week it will be present like a carbon monoxide clouds in the villages. So basically, they need a monitoring system uh, to predict what's going to happen. Like also for a monitoring system. So can you go for next slide, please? Okay. So what our solution is that we just deployed a LoRaWAN system. So the forest is not a reliable source for a cellular. So we can't just deploy a cellular based monitoring system in the forest. So what we went is that for a LoRaWAN system. So a particular area as a network strength, proper instance. So our gateway will be a cellular mode. So gateway will be worked as a cellular, but the sensing nodes will be in LoRa. So next slide, please. So how we integrate AI into our system? We just use the LoRaWAN to just monitor and get the environmental parametric data in the forest. But firstly, we have tried a threshold-based classification technique, like the elephants, the vibrations from the elephants, like and differs from the vibrations of the cheetahs. So with that vibration values is just marking it as a threshold, like formulating an impulse loop to classify these animals. But later we thought that it's not an efficient system, but we needed an intelligent system to just classify these animals. Previously, in 2011, our NGO also tried a technique to classify these animals, but they went for a video-based classification. So in our scenario, the battery is the only power source for us, because even solar is not a reliable source for us, because the trees in the forest are literally like 60 feet above. So they just the branches totally cover the forest. So it will be pitch dark under the forest, even in the daytimes. So we can just extend a solar panel to the above 60 feet to get the solar power. So that's not a feasible thing for us. So we totally laid on the battery source. So as I told earlier, the NGO has tried the video-based classification in the embedded system, so which totally drained up the power like 3 to 4 days. But our main aim is to deploy a long-term monitoring system, like literally for 1 to 2 months. So that's why we went for a low-power system, LoRaWAN. So what we came up with at last solution is that a seismogram-based classification. So if we get the values of the vibrations, it will be plotted in the graph of displacement and time. So this will look like the images I mentioned in the slide. So after getting these values, the seismogram basically works like audio-based. The back previous slide. Okay, thank you. So the seismograms totally look like an audio waveforms. So these values will be totally converted into spectrograms. So what is spectrogram is basically like the seismic data is an 1D representation of a graph. So these these values are just formulated into a mathematical formula called Fourier transformer. So we can just get a spectrogram of the values. So after we get the spectrograms, we just normally use an CNN or an AA for classifying these vibration values like in these spectrograms. So we can see how the spectrogram can look. We can see a pixelated image in the bottom, which is a spectrogram. So instead of using the high power systems like Raspberry Pi or high level embedded boards, so it will totally suck up the power, and we didn't need that kind of power top, particularly the neural processing tops for that. So what we went is that we went for a dedicated NPU, a neural processing unit. We have used a micro NPU, which is an Ethos U55. That NPU has it is a low power model. So we just keep the NPU in deep state whenever the system is, we don't need the system to activate 24 hours. Only when we just designed a trigger system to basically on the total system. So this gave us a power advantage, not using those powerful embedded systems. So we went for the dedicated NPU for the classification, and this model will be deployed in the NPU. Just if an elephant enter, it will create a spectrogram which will be matched by a technique called sliding window will be used for this spectrogram analysis. So just if the spectrogram matches with the features of the elephants, it will give an interference that it is an elephant, like for cheetahs and for humans. And these spectrograms will basically differ, and these features are very unique. That's what made the system very intelligent to classify these animal classes. So can you go for next slide, please? And to answer Kai's question, so what are the problems we have faced in our project? First, the data acquisition part. So we can't just use the data from the internet like elephants vibration data and those things, because on this project is totally for a real-time purposes. So we can't, not a prototype thing. So it's a real-time product. So if I train the model on the data from the internet, and it will not the validation, the accuracy will totally get affected. So like we just tried that earlier and thought it became one of the challenge for us. So we just how we solved is that the NGO helped us to get the data. The NGO has an partnered connections with the Ant Sanctuary, who helped us to gain these data. So we got in real-time data, which gave us the high accuracy in the validation datasets of the model. And then, so as I told earlier, we are using a neural processing unit, a dedicated neural processing unit, and it is also works in the low power too. So we can't just deploy an integrated architecture AI model. In that, it's one of the problem because of the power constraints. So what we did is that there's a thing called quantization. So using that, we can just minimize the size of the model and complexity of the AI model. As per it totally works like TinyML, even like more efficient than TinyML. So for this neural processing, and I am a student, okay, and I don't have enough knowledge about AI and those things. But what made me to get these ideas and about this to follow my project is that what I did to get those knowledge required is that firstly I did some research on the Google Scholar and what people did, and then they spent a lot of time on sites like IEEE Explore, and then IEEE Blender Learning, those platforms, and then just surfed on Google of like tutorials and those things. And I spent a lot of time, me and my team spent a lot of time learning those tech stack. But it's not the only thing we did. Also, every universities have incubators and those things, and it is confirmed that every university have senior scientists in the universities too. So you can just the students can just go to them and ask for guidance to it, just how we can proceed with it, what the current state of the art technology going on. So they will help you. So that's how you can face the solve the challenges of the expert knowledge needed as a student. I am undergrad, and which made me I got a lot of experience from them, guidance from them, which made me to successfully go through this project. And yeah, as I told you, lack of accuracy is one of the problems which we had earlier due to the data set thing. So with the help of NGI, we solved that too. Okay, next slide, please.
Great, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Before we move on to Jeff, we will first do some open questions for all the panelists. So these start with, from your perspective, how do you know if AI is an appropriate technology to integrate into an EPICS in IEEE project or in a humanitarian project in general? That's the first question. If anyone would like to answer that, please let me know.
Yeah, so may I?
Yes, please go ahead. Thank you.
Thank you, Kia, for the question. So I think these days AI and machine learning is has applications in many domains and in many technologies. And most of the projects in EPICS and in IEEE are based on technology. So it's very important for technology to incorporate the AI machine learning algorithm. Again, it depends on the application as well. For example, if I just talk about my project, so in my project, the use of AI is very important. But on the other side, if not the appropriate or complete data is available, then the accuracy will affect, and then the decision that is taken by the AI might affect the user as well. So AI is very important. I agree that we have to use it in different technology projects, especially that are based on the service learning. But again, on the other side, one of the challenge that we have is the availability of the data sets, because sometimes the data is too complex. In addition, the data is not available as well. So as one of the other group has also mentioned that the accuracy again and the validation depends on the data. So I suggest if somebody would like to pursue the project based on AI in EPICS and IEEE, it's very important to do the collaboration with the local research foundations or NPOs and takes the different stakeholders on board. Do the search on the internet as well. Maybe some data is also available there, data set is available there as well, and then try to incorporate the AI so that you get the required accuracy based on your application where it is being used. Thank you.
Thank you. That was a great answer. Yeah, then the next question, again, an open question for anyone that would like to answer it on the panel. How would you suggest the team mitigate risks related to the integration of AI into a service learning project? Would anyone like to answer that question?
Hello, if I may try. So
Yes, please.
I think I mean, both of these questions and all of these projects, I think the user has to be at the center of any proposed AI solution. So in general, what we as engineers and so on, we try to maybe sometimes come up with a solution and then try to fit the problem into the solution. So my approach would be to always do some human-centered design research at the beginning and come up with really questions that the community needs and try to address them. Now, in regards to your second specific question regarding the mitigation of the risk, I think the first thing which one has to do for mitigation of risk is an understanding and an assessment of all the risks which are involved when using the AI. So in some projects, it might be that the data is not okay to be shared. For example, it needs privacy, special storage, and so on. And in other projects such as ours, which involve the field data collection, I think it's very important to understand any potential impact that the data collection aspect might incur on like the environment. So for example, in our case, what we did is we did multiple test runs, first of all, by our student volunteers and our aides, research assistants, to understand how data collection is going to be done so as not to interfere with the local activity of the reserve workers, also not to disturb the ecosystem there, not to maybe go on and step on critical flowers or endangered species and so on. And also you don't want, in this case, for example, to share the location, the geotagged location of the images, because then people would know where a rare species is located, and then they might go and actually collect it, and then which will jeopardize the biodiversity conservation in my case. So I think, first of all, a proper understanding and assessment of the risk is the best way to mitigate that.
Okay, thank you. That's some very good advice. And then, yeah, just continue. I would have two more questions for you, Dr. Danny. It's just, how can AI be used to address challenges specific to under-resourced communities? That's the first question. And then the next question is, what advice would you give to teams who would want to start integrating AI into their projects, but they have limited technical expertise? Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Kai, for your question. I think I want to share about a very important project which we are also doing in our center incubator. So this project relates to plant health assessment. So as you might know, I mean, we don't want to do chemical testing of specimens of the trees and so on. So what we want to do is be able to leverage smartphone technology, again, in this project, which is widely available to assess plant health. So smartphones collect what we call RGB images. So this means red, green, blue, a 3-band. However, to be able to assess the health of the plant from images, the image needs to be hyperspectral, so it should contain more wavelength. And this is a challenge because hyperspectral imaging or multispectral imaging requires expensive equipment such as multispectral camera or hyperspectral cameras. And then this is problematic for under-resourced communities. So AI here is very powerful because we are trying to address a reconstruction problem. So we are asking, can we recover the hyperspectral data and then use it for plant health assessment from RGB images which can be obtained from widely available smartphone technologies? And the answer turns out to be in the literature, yes. And this is possible through deep learning. And what we are doing specifically in our project is we are benefiting from the fact that plants have a specific reflectance, which means that we can specialize existing reconstruction deep learning models, make them smaller, make them deployable on smartphones, and so on, to be able to reconstruct from RGB the hyperspectrum, and then also use it for plant health assessment, which is very beneficial. And the point behind this is we want to be able to assess the health of the plant early on. For example, if there is a drought, if there is some water stress, if there is some blight infection or something, prior to visual symptoms appearing, because once the visual symptoms appear and you are able to identify them by the naked eye, you are already late. So again, in all our projects in our center incubator, the whole point is to empower the action of the citizens and of the biosphere reserve managers by providing them with tools which address their needs and which will make use of widely available technology in their hand and not require them to buy expensive equipment.
Thank you for the very in-depth answer. That was great. And now we're going to move on to Jeff. Jeff, you've served as a reviewer, a mentor, as well as worked in a company focusing on cutting-edge technology. What do you look for when reviewing a proposal that integrates AI for funding consideration? Thank you.
Okay, I have a few slides to emphasize some rough guidance in that area. Do you want to flip to the next one? Okay, I call this things to think about in AI. The first thing when you're considering AI is remember people don't know how human intelligence itself works. So, you know, unlike a car where we understand internal combustion or something, you know, we're making an artificial version of something we don't actually understand ourselves. So you have to be patient with the quirks that are in that technology, especially since its popular advancement has mostly occurred, you know, within the last 10 years. But keep in mind, there is no magic outside of Hogwarts. That's what I told people. Next slide. When you look for exemplars for your AI system to learn from, the data available to you may be skewed or biased because it's only from your company, your school, or your government. That's not a criticism. I would be willing to say publicly, and I guess I am now, that even in most corporations, they don't know all the information that they actually possess because all that data is in a variety of different systems. Okay, so you may need to look in some unexpected areas to find answers or get complete data sets. Next. And I'm running through this quickly because I only have 5 minutes to do this. Here's an example from industry. The goal was look for rust on electric power transmission towers. These are the 100-foot tall structures that are usually in the middle of nowhere, taking power from a generating station into the rest of the grid. And since they're outside all the time, rust is an issue. The first project attempt that did this spotted the rust on the towers, also spotted the brown dirt on the ground, and spotted leaves that were turning colors, and that looked like rust. What was wrong with this? If you asked any 10-year-old child to look for the rust, they would, of course, only look on the metal structure. The first version of the AI system that was developed didn't have that restriction. So they had to build a preprocessor to help the system understand what are the metal structural parts that are in the image and only look for rust on there. And that topic of preprocessing is an important one. To get a successful AI system, you need to focus its attention, especially in the visual realm. Like, oh, these are the parts of the tower, and I will just look for rust there. Next, please. Skin cancer diagnosis. A relatively famous cancer hospital in the U.S. asked for help with this because apparently this, I don't know this, I have no real medical background. The same skin cancer can look different on different people or even on different parts of the same person's body. All right. So they said, oh, we'll solve this with AI. All right. It must be better than the experts, right? So they did the test, they did the AI system, and its accuracy wasn't any more than the experts. So the conclusion from there is not AI is a failure. The conclusion from there is if what you're looking at is just the visual indications, in the case of this kind of medical diagnosis, it is not sufficient. Okay? So always think about just because you have some experts doesn't mean they know all the answers. All right, there may actually be a more thorough approach that has to be done, like a biopsy or chemical analysis. Next slide. All right, on the converse, not everything needs AI. One of the proposals that I reviewed for EPICS, they were sorting bottles and cans for recycling. And in most countries, those come in standard sizes, you know, maybe 500 milliliters, a liter, something like this. So you could try to recognize the bottle shape with AI and fast enough to make a mechanical actuator actually put it in the right recycling bin. However, the real solution that's used in most of those things is mechanical. You drop the bottle in the various size holes as the holes move by, and when it falls through, that's the right size. Okay, This was interesting, this fast Fourier transform, because I wasn't aware of this, but Prasanna mentioned it in his presentation. So there's actually a mathematical method to take a waveform and tell you what sounds are in it. You know, for example, you can play a middle C on a trombone and on a piano, and they sound different, but they're the same note because the harmonics of the sound are the same. And more than 100 years ago, someone figured that out even before they had computers to do it in an efficient fashion. So don't look at throwing AI into every problem. Also look at, is there something in mathematics or statistics that can pre-process the data and just tell the AI, these are the relative values of the sound components I hear in this, what instrument is it, for example. And then you can generalize that, you know, only put AI on the parts that are needed. Don't go in and say the solution must involve AI and only AI. That's not what 200 years of preceding science and algorithms and something have produced. You know, most of the technologies for solving differential equations were worked out by someone named Gauss, who lived in the 1800s. He probably didn't have a slide ruler to work with, never mind a computer. All right. Just because things are old doesn't mean they still don't apply. Next. Next slide. All right. So good AI uses. I tend to tell people, think of AI as a computerized summer intern. It's smart. It knows something. It knows how to learn. Experts can agree on what a solution is, but the summer intern, your AI program, isn't. It's always learning. Also, look for situations with known rules. Let's go back to that recycling system. You know, if the bottles and cans only come in 3 different sizes, you know, that's a standard. You don't need to look at something. If you're making a self-driving car, which Kai actually did as one of his fun projects, you know which side of the road the pedestrians are on, which side of the road the car is supposed to be on. What does a double yellow line mean besides a single yellow line? You don't learn by sending the car out and saying, you know, taking away points from the algorithm every time it hits a person until it eventually learns, right? Okay. Also, remember, when you give a human problem, humans ask each other questions for refinement. A lot of AI systems have no such capability to say to the user, I can't decide, help me. Let me differentiate this situation from that one. All right. Again, that goes back to my first slide of, you know, AI are not humans, and there's a big difference in how they work. Next slide. I know I'm going fast, but I was asked to go fast. So think of it like a good student-professor relationship. The AI learns from experts. It asks questions when it's uncertain. It has to know that it's uncertain. All right. An AI system that just comes up with a wrong answer, that has to be reviewed after the fact. So see if you can think of the way that the AI might be undecided, and then ask somebody, even interactively, right? Expert reviews the work of AI even when AI doesn't ask the questions. That's vital, especially if it's doing something like flying a plane or something like this. And just like a student, the teacher tests the AI, you know, every time it's updated to see if it brought a falsehood into its sphere of knowledge. All right. Never think of AI as immediately replacing the expert. That's bad for the trust of AI, and it's bad for the expert who's being replaced. Okay. Next slide. I can't explain it. So sometimes humans have a feeling or a sixth sense about something. If you think about that deeply, what it really means is a human has learned something unconsciously. They can't really put their mind on why they know this, but they think, you know, the answer is, you know, sodium chloride, and the real answer is potassium chloride. All right. You want to avoid that kind of thing in AI. All right. Yes, Stephanie, I will wrap up. I think this could be close to the end. Next slide. Okay, so a final mention, if you want to do an exercise in complexity, you know, AI in speech to text or an AI to process is a relatively easy thing to do. You know, on your local radio station, you know, you will get morning traffic reports. Which Highway 16 is clogged up, use Highway 15. and they will mention things like Aragoni or, you know, Bridgeport Bridge or something like that. It involves a lot of local knowledge just to understand the simple little 2-minute traffic report. So write an AI, even if you capture the text on your own, that will understand that 2-minute morning traffic report on the radio and just see how complex learning can be. I think that's the last slide, so Stephanie can breathe a sigh of relief.
Thank you for that information, Jeff. Very helpful. Yep. I'll now be talking about how AI resources, how we integrate them into EPIC's budgets and what's appropriate and what's not appropriate. Next slide, please. Great. So yeah, when budgeting for AI tools, the following things EPICS and IEEE can fund, and these are sensors for collecting data that will be used by an AI and its algorithms, as well as microcontrollers for processors to run the algorithms, for prototypes, as well as components to connect devices to the cloud for real-time decision making. But if it is appropriate, we'd rather always suggest that teams run it locally, but if needed, online. Initial App Store fees, if appropriate, as well as cloud computing credits. Justification is needed for initial use, as well as then we need to know how you will continue using these resources after the EPICS funding has finished. And then things that EPICS and IEEE does not fund is laptops, computers, etc. Even if a high performance computer is needed for your AI, for example. Cell phones for data collection are also not funded, as well as data plans for mobile devices or laptops. Paid software licenses when open sources versions are available. These will not be funded, as we suggest you rather use the open source software, as well as stipends or wages to pay students or consultants to help develop your AI solutions. In part or in full, these will also not be funded. And then in conclusion, the majority of EPICS and IEEE budgets should be for prototyping materials. So please review our budget training on our website, on the EPICS and IEEE website for any further details. Thank you.
Excellent. So thank you so much for all of our panelists for sharing information about their projects, as well as my committee members for sharing information about their thoughts on AI and talking about how to budget it. I would like to remind everyone that our next deadline for EPICS and IEEE proposals is going to be October 15th. Again, this theme is artificial intelligence and autonomous systems. These still need to meet all of our EPICS project guidelines. So if you're not sure what's necessary, please make sure that you look at the information we have online so that you can best submit the best proposal. We really want you to have a strong proposal. We don't love reading proposals that we have to deny, but it does take effort to make a good EPICS proposal. Ashley, you can see, is taking our URL and posting it into the chat and getting ready to share that with you. When I talk about submitting a strong proposal, we do have a newly launched training course. This lives on the IEEE ILN, our learning network. So if you want to access it, you access it through our website. There's a form that you access it through, and then we recommend you bookmark the page so you don't have to submit the form twice. But this explains more about what EPICS and IEEE is, our service learning philosophy, as well as all of the different criteria that we use to evaluate proposals and tips for writing a strong proposal. So this is a training course that's available. I know I had a couple questions come through in the chat about, can you describe more about EPICS and IEEE? We've run a couple of those webinars that you can see on our YouTube channel, or you can go through this self-paced course to learn a little bit more. If we covered all of that and AI, we would be going for at least another hour today. I think with that, we do want to open the floor for general Q&A. So with that, if you have questions, please feel free to type them in the chat. They can be directed to all of the panelists. They can be directed to a specific panelist, or if you don't care, we can just read it out loud and allow any of our panelists to respond who might feel like they have an answer. Kai and I will both be moderating the chat, so we encourage you to, if you feel like there's something that you wanted to ask that we haven't addressed yet, this is your time as attendees that are live. And if you're watching the recording, hopefully these Q&A will help. You can always send questions to us via email as well, so that we can answer them afterwards. Okay, and I'm just scrolling through the chat. I see Ashley, our program manager, did post the link to our fall call for projects, as well as to our training course. Please make sure if you are submitting for the fall call, you address the theme of AI. Proposals that don't link to our theme will not be eligible for funding this round due to funding limitations. We also have some strategic partners, so we'd like to thank our donors and partners for donating to EPICS and IEEE to fund this fall call. And if you're able to align your project with one of those societies or groups, you are more likely to be eligible for funding. And I see someone says that they did the training course as a reviewer, so great feedback. Thank you. I'm so excited that the course is helpful to both those submitting proposals as well as our reviewers. So again, we'll stay on for a few minutes as we keep an eye on the chat. I will let Ashley go back to one other slide before this that has all of our available resources and links. So if you're not sure what to ask today, but you still want to learn a little bit more, when this gets shared with you, you'll have access to these hyperlinks. And again, our mailing list is something you can scan with your phone right now. We're very excited to have you join us. We typically send out one email per month, and that's going to have information on upcoming calls for projects, ways to engage, such as through project mentorship, and stories about our existing projects. Okay, Kai, I do see a question. Would you like to read that one out and then maybe answer it since it's more of a committee question?
Yeah, sure. The question is funding for traveling to community partner sites allowed, plus event arrangements for data collection? That's a great question. So yes, local travel is allowed if that is to go into a community to, test your prototype and engage with the community, as well as then events are allowed for if it's actually relating to, like you said, data collection for the project. But we try to limit these, of course. So we rather use the budget for other materials, such as your project materials, for actually building your prototype. That would be more suggested. I don't know if you want to add anything, Stephanie?
I think the main thing I would encourage you to think about from the budget is what percentage of your project is going towards the actual prototype and creating the prototype versus having some funding available. So especially if you're doing this through an IEEE section or a student chapter, I know sometimes we need to motivate people to join, and food's a great motivator, but we're not able to serve a 5-course buffet with every data collection event that we do. So snacks are appropriate, small amounts of food, especially if the community partner or if the community stakeholders are going to be involved. We understand you might need to have a meal for a full day event, but if you're just doing a 1 or 2 hour event, usually we would expect that people would be providing their own meal, especially if you're doing 10, 20 of these data collection events. So just try to keep your food budget to be a smaller portion of your budget than the prototyping supplies and other resources you need for your project. The committee does review budgets, and if we think that any of the lines are superfluous, we will ask you to reduce them or remove them completely before we agree to fund them. But it's a lot easier for us if we have a nice, clean, slim budget that really focuses on the project coming in, so we don't need to have those negotiations with you. Excellent question. Okay, I think with that, since we're coming close to the end, I'll maybe ask each of our panelists to just give one final closing thought about AI, or maybe even just a tip for applying for EPICS and IEEE funding. Those attendees that are listening in on the call today are likely considering project proposals for our AI call. So I'll just go down the line, and I know, Jeff, I'm going to start with you as our committee member. If you had to give just one closing thought, what would it be?
These days, there's an awful lot of AI tools available, and I would have a chat with your professor about which way to start, because if you pick the wrong method, you could quickly run out of time going down, I won't say the wrong path, because you could eventually make almost anything work in the world of computer science, but to something more appropriate to the project that you're going to do. That would save, I think, a lot of time And chances are, if you're a student, you may not have the experience to pick from the multitude of even open source choices that are available.
Thank you, Jeff. Next, I'll go to Danny.
Thank you for the webinar, and I would like to encourage everybody to actually apply to the APEX and IEEE program. Our experience has been great so far. We went through the review process and got our project funded, and being able to participate in this IEEE and APEX and IEEE project has enabled us to conduct very much needed field work. Now, my advice would be, like I mentioned before, to really try to address a problem which is relevant to your community. So go ahead, talk to your local stakeholders, to the people, to the causes that you sympathize with and you want to support, and identify bottlenecks that they have in their operation, maybe, or something, and then try to see how AI can help them mitigate this bottleneck and facilitate their lives.
Thank you, Danny. Next, I'm going to jump to Noshirwan.
Thank you. So I think for applying to funding to APEX and IEEE, one of the very important aspect is to identify the problem or the issue that you would like to address. So it's very important that you did a good homework regarding the problem that you would like to solve or a solution you would like to do for a proposed problem. Sometimes this happens that we usually see the deadlines and keep our work at the end of the deadline on the last day or last week. We try to identify the problem and then talk with our NPOs and stakeholders. So it's better if you, because you know that APEX and IEEE regularly announce the grants, and maybe you can make a calendar in your computer and try to target different funding. Secondly, I request that if you go to your section, and you can also get the guidance from your section as well, because typically our section has maybe a multiple of grants that are awarded, or you can also see the grants on the grants map on the APEX and IEEE website as well, where you can find the sections as well where the grants are assigned. So you can also connect with them, get guidance from training material as well, and also from the people who already won the grants. This will also help them to make a very good proposal, because as Stephen has mentioned that that APEX and IEEE expect a very good homework proposal for you to submit and do your work. Thank you.
Excellent. Prasanna.
The tips from my side is that don't just fit the solution into the problem. Just check the feasible ways how you can craft the project and how feasible is that. And then have a good conversation with the NGO and what are the problem statement they are proposing to you. Just work on that. And in the point of view of solution, just research a lot about what are the ways and what are the technologies are going around the world and what are the solutions that people are giving. You can also search the other selected projects of IEEE APEX, which might you get a huge idea about what other people are doing and how projects are get selected and those things, how things work. That's the tips from my side. Thank you.
Great. And Kai, I'll let you provide the closing remarks. So is there anything from your side as a committee member you wanted to add, or just anything else that you wanted to mention before we call this panel to a close?
Thank you, everyone, for your closing remarks. Really appreciate it. And yeah, I just want to encourage everyone to please get out there in their community, speak to their communities, and find problems that are faced in these communities, and find solutions using AI and other technologies to really increase the efficiency in your project going forward. And I feel like this would really help everyone involved. And yeah, I just want to say a big thanks to everyone again, and looking forward to your proposals. Thank you.
With that, thank you everyone for joining us. The APEX recording will be on our YouTube channel and linked to our website as a resource as well. So we appreciate you listening in or watching this recording. If you have any further questions, I encourage you to reach out to our program manager, Ashley, and we hope to see many of you submit proposals for us for our October 15th deadline. Thank you, everyone, and have a great day.